This next thing is not really into the knee bar we just covered, but it's something that I think is really important to learn, and not a lot of people use it. And it's how to finish an arm bar against someone who's maybe stronger than you, or they just have really good arm bar defense. Yeah, I guess we can do it on this side. So most of the conventional ways to finish the arm bar, I'm sure if you use arm bars and you've ever been taught this position, there's a lot of ways to do it. Different grips, different ways to break the grip. There's a lot of different tricks you can use. One that I find to be the most effective is not focusing too much on trying to use your arms against their arms, which obviously that works, like you can do it. But something I've been doing lately, which I learned a long time ago, back in like 2011 when I was training at BJ Penn's, is you don't necessarily have to focus on using your back to break the grip or kicking with your feet. You can sort of just force them to give up their arm with pressure. And the way you do that is pretty cool, and I like to do it a lot because it doesn't require a lot of energy. And you know, whenever you're doing jiu-jitsu, if you can use something with pressure and technique rather than trying to force something and break a grip with strength, that's always good. So the first thing I like to do is whenever someone's defending, you can just rear naked choke or do whatever. People like to throw their legs a lot. They like to throw their legs over the top of you, try and catch your head, and do things like this when you're attacking a knee bar and they're getting kind of desperate. So the first thing I like to do is just make sure I take a deep grip with my elbow around his ankle, or around his knee here and his hip, like this. Now this in itself doesn't really help you finish the knee bar or the arm bar here, because he's turning into me a little bit. It just gives him, he just probably still feels pretty comfortable. But what it does allow me to do is it allows me to sit in this position without worrying about him trying to kick me in the head or like trying to throw his legs over my head to triangle me or something, and just make it difficult to actually keep attacking the arm bar. So I like to do this. It sort of counter rotates his body a little bit and takes away his ability to like oompa as well. Like people, sometimes they may try and oompa and come on top of you. Excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry. It's all right. You're just so strong. So just like that, they oompa and they can knock you off and make it harder to finish. But if I go like this, he can't really plant his feet to oompa, right? And as long as I have a strong hook here on his elbow, I'm still pretty safe as far as controlling the arm bar. So now what I like to do is, once I have this grip around his hips and his legs, you can actually bring this leg off his face. Now this seems sort of counterintuitive, but you actually bring your leg off his face and plant it on the mat. I'm still squeezing my knees together, but I'm just not bringing it over his head, which is fine. You'll feel it still feels very strong, and he's probably not going anywhere. But the reason I do this is so that I can plant my hand and my foot and bring my weight on top of his body and set my weight like my hip here on his solar plexus. Now this is really important because it gives you a ton of leverage to finish the arm bar in the same way you would normally, but now I just have my weight on his stomach. And it makes it a lot harder for him to resist, because now every time he moves, he's losing a little bit more oxygen as I sort of sit on his lungs here. But the real thing that finishes this move is it's sort of taking away the structural integrity of his rear naked choke defense or his grip, because all of these grips are designed to stop the arm bar going out to the side. But when you change it and you start attacking it from over the top here, it gives you a really clean access to his wrist. You're not just pulling at the elbow anymore. You have a strong grip on around his wrist, and it's just pulling it downwards instead of up and out that way. So it's just sort of changing the angle. The final thing that makes this really, really strong is the real mean part. And the leg that we took off of his face in the beginning, once I get my weight onto his solar plexus and stomach area, I bring this leg back over his head. Once I bring it back over his head, I just bring my ankle and just drag it along the mat a little to sort of torque his neck. It's not torquing his neck, that's a mean term. I'm just pushing his head in a way that's really just extending his body. So his hips are rotated that way, his chest is rotated this way, and his head is just bending off at a weird angle that way. And you were able to readjust your grip on his wrist to get better leverage to actually finish the arm bar here. So it sort of makes it so instead of just using your arms and back to finish an arm bar and try and fight against that, you can sort of incorporate your whole body with your hips, the weight of your body, your hamstring pulling on his head. This leg is squeezing on his ribs, and my other arm is just rotating in here. So the more uncomfortable you can make someone, the better, especially in a position where they're just trying to hold on. So again, I'm just here. I reach over the hips, bring this foot here. This is the only part where they may try and make a escape. But as long as you keep your knees together tight, he's probably not going anywhere, especially because of this grip. Once you grab the belt, you'll find it's very secure. The foot that I brought over here is just gonna help me pop my hips up on top of him, like this. I sort of lift my elbow and start to drag my arm more towards his wrist rather than his forearm or bicep, which further helps me extend the position. And then the final nail in the coffin is to bring my foot next to his head and extend that way. So if you're ever having trouble finishing arm bars, try this technique, and I think you'll have a lot of success.